something a bit different this week. What happened? Well, we went on a nice little trip down the river and a boat sank in front of us. It broke loose of its moorings near a bridge and went under the water like 20 metres in front of us, and it was spinning underneath the water. If we'd have gone past it, we may well have died. So let's get into it, shall we? So this is the only footage that I've got of it. It's a little short clip, but I'll try and do some kind of editing magic and zoom in and get a better view of it. So let's get into it. Where did it all begin? Okay, so we were going to set off from New Haven down here, catch the rising tide all the way along the River Ouse, around this corner, doodaloo, all the way up to Lewes, like that, to go to the pub, because why not? And if you can see, that bridge in there is where all the trouble occurred. So as you can see, everything was going awesome. Beautiful day. Dinghy's going well. Playing about with the 360 camera. Doing it no justice whatsoever. Checking out some cool little fishing boats. Everything's grand. We're happy. There's Dave following me in his dinghy. It was so good, in fact, I felt like I could even say this. Not a bad life. But it was going to end up being. Tootling along, we've got quite a bit of tide going with us, so we end up doing about, I think we clocked it about 6.1 knots, something like that. More playing about with the 360 camera. Still not doing it justice. I think I need some air in my dinghy, or it may just be the immense weight. You know, it's shaping up to be awesome. And then the first little thing, I ran out of fuel. The engine stopped. Right as I was just near the bank near a load of spiky, pokey uppy things, and Dave happened to be recording. Dave thought I was just messing around, so he's casually recording me. And then I gave him the little nod, like, no, I can't start. So yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah, well. He's about to pop, but you know, don't rescue me or anything.
Can't you start?
No.
Oh.
But a little after a little bit of a tow away from the spiky bits over there, I managed to get her fueled up with some very nice handiwork, I might add, and we were back on our way. And now, to the meat of it. So this is the direction we're heading in. And as we round this corner, you can see just on the right hand side, these boats that are moored up. And stood just here were a bunch of people screaming at me, there's a boat in the river. And just at this side of the river here, something had obviously let loose that was moored up. And with the tidal flow, which was probably 3 or 4 knots at this point because of how the area narrows, sort of thing, you can see that it goes from quite a wide area here down to quite a narrow area here. As we round the corner, I see the bow of a boat underneath the bridge as people are screaming at me, there's a boat in the water. So that's me with a big arrow pointed at me, just out of shot there as we round the corner, and you can probably see the boat over on the right hand side there, how far it's been pushed into the river by the tidal flow. But as I carry on around, you can just see there now the bow of the boat underneath the river sort of starting to rotate and stick up. I've slowed this bit down as slow as I can to sort of see it, and you can just see the triangular shape now sticking up in the river. Now from here it looks quite calm. However, at this point I'm probably doing 6 knots towards it, something like that. And I bricked it because that was rotating underneath the water with the water spewing up all around it and bubbling. And yeah, thought I was going to die. And that is all of the footage. And it's just by complete random chance that Dave happened to have his phone up just to film the bridge as we came around. So here is my wonderful description of what happened next. My bottom clamped onto the dinghy so much that it now has a third hole in the middle in the shape of a crease. Oh man. So I put the tiller right over and knocked the throttle right up. Naturally, well, the tiller was straight over, which nearly tipped the dinghy out, tipped me out, which was really exciting because I was now panicking. I haven't mentioned that I'd noticed the oil level was low on the dinghy, so we were stopping to get oil, and so I just didn't trust the engine. I was at full throttle against the tidal flow, and I was probably doing 0.2 knots. At this point, it was every man for himself. I just dumped Dave. He can sort himself out. He's got a nice big motor. So I was just gone. As we were going round where the boats were moored up, I actually came in behind the boats because I thought if it does let go and I need to stop, at least I can grab onto the side of the boat, one of the boats, and I just crawled up the side of that little wall bit because there were little metal bits on. I thought if the engine goes, I can grab one of them. And eventually the river opened up a little bit and moved at more than 0.1 knots. I dread to think what everybody was thinking because the bridge was packed with people and so were the banks. As I say, there was a group of people shouting that there's a boat in the water, turn around. I ditched Dave. I almost feel sorry for him, but I don't, because he like turned around and zipped past me. So yeah, it's like every man for himself. Where did we end up? Let's have a look. So just a little bit further up the river was we'd gone past some pontoons that we saw, so we thought if we made it back to there, at least we can tie up. And they were just there on the right, and it turns out they belonged to Lewes Rowing Club. Unfortunately, when we got there, they said basically we're not really allowed to stop there. They couldn't let us off their property because it was private property, and even if they did, we couldn't get back in. So they said we could tie up there until the tide changes, which was 2 hours, or move somewhere else basically. So we moved somewhere else. One of the guys suggested just a little bit further up the river there's actually a lifeboat that had sunk next to one of a homemade pontoon type thing, and there was another homemade pontoon just a bit further up from it. So gingerly I restarted the engine and we zipped back up to that other pontoon and tied up there. It involved a little bit of climbing, but it was okay. This is the boat that's tied up. Once the tide had turned, you can see that obviously they're pushing in the opposite direction now. Yeah, so that's what we did. And that was the end of the epic bit. We had a nice walk into Lewes, had some non-alcoholic 2 beers and some nachos, and then straight back laughing. After a nice easy docking, we were done for the day. So what did I learn? Well, I learned that I'd feel a lot better if I had a life jacket on, so I think that might be something going forwards. I learned to triple check my oil before I set off. Incidentally, I put oil in the motor and by the time I got back it was gone. So I need to take the motor to pieces and try and fix that. We've had a look at the news to see if anything came up about it. We've not seen anything so far, but apparently there are some older ones that it's happened before, so must be a semi-regular occurrence. A little bit of poo came out, I'll be honest, but you know, wipe it up and learn to live another day. Cheers.